Welcome to the Manifesting Millions podcast, where we talk about manifestation, money, and practical guidance to creating your dream reality. My name is Amy Van Meel, and I am an experienced coach and transformation guide, obsessed with helping you get out of your own way and create a life that blows your mind each day you wake up. My goal in this podcast is to share practical manifestation, self-awareness, and growth techniques in real talk conversations. So if you're ready to massively transform your reality, your finances, your relationships, and your overall enjoyment of life, you are in the right place. I am absolutely delighted that you're here with me today, babe. Let's get into it. Hello, my lovely souls. Happy International Women's Day. You're probably listening to this a little bit after International Women's Day because I'm recording this on International Women's Day, but I am delighted that you're here. You may have noticed a slight change to our podcast format. I have been busy. I got an intro and an outro recorded, and yeah, I'd love to hear what you think about some of the changes that I've been making. Today's episode is very much one for the girls, or for men who are grounded enough and willing to learn about their counterparts. Today, my friends, we're going to be getting into periods and and body health. Helps if I read my notes more clearly. All right, I am going to start off this episode by stating that I am not a medical professional. What I will be sharing and talking about today is based on my own learning and experience. And of course, please work with a medical professional for your health. But I do want to share candidly some of my experiences and what I've been learning. So with that, let's dive into today's episode. So a little groundwork before we get into it. Last year, if you've been listening to the podcast for a little while, you'll know that last year was a very big, expanding, and challenging year for me. I was still in a job that was literally draining my soul and my energy, that had created so much stress and strain in my life that I ended up taking a mental health leave for a month. And a few months later, when I was back at work, I experienced my first ever anxiety attack. I also turned 40, which wasn't so much about the number or the age. Age has never bothered me, but this felt to me like a massive gateway that I was stepping through in the trajectory of my life. I was also planning a wedding, and I got married in September. And in October, I quit my job, choosing for my health and well-being, and ultimately for building my dream life. So yeah, a lot happening. On top of that, I had been having daily dizzy spells where I do something as simple as standing up from sitting on the couch. I wasn't doing anything hard, and I'd get so dizzy, I'd need to grab a chair or a wall to steady myself. And at times, I'd lose my vision entirely. Now, twice I passed out fully, once while I was in the shower, and to date, I am so grateful for the exact distance between our shower and our vanity so that I didn't slam my head on the way down because I literally woke up like slumped over the toilet. And another time I passed out while I was outside. Thankfully, I was crouched on the ground at the time, so I just found myself waking up slumped against the garage. It was constant, these daily dizzy spells. And finally, I decided to go see a doctor because I thought, I am 39 and there is no reason that I should be feeling this way. I was sent for a wealth of cardio tests, the concern being that there was something amiss with my heart. After months of testing, the cardiologist informed me that I was fine, that I actually just needed to have more salt. No further explanation was given, despite my asking, which annoyed the fuck out of me. But a few weeks later, I noticed I was feeling dizzy again. And what I ultimately discovered was that it actually had to do with sugar. That if I had a larger amount of sugar in a day, I'd get dizzy. And depending on how much sugar I had, for example, if I had like an intensely sweet cupcake, I would have brownouts where your vision completely blacks out. Now, during all of this, I also noticed a shift in my periods. They seemed to be changing in length, in intensity, and they weren't as dependable as they'd been for the previous 30 years. Yes, I've been having my period for 30 years, and that's a fucking long time. Now, I had heard women talk about how their periods changed around 40. So I kind of thought perhaps my body had this like little internal switch that said, hey, we're approaching 40, time to shake things up in here. But in November, I was no longer working the job. Our wedding and the resultant cleanup was all done. I'd had my birthday. I'd moved through the big things, and I was in a place of deep healing. I was so unbelievably exhausted during this time, and it was so frustrating, both frustrating the heck out of me and worrying me. Now, thankfully, I was already 3 months into working with my coach, and she was a steady voice of calm and expansion through it all. Honestly, coaches are the bomb. But in November, my period suddenly got worse. So I was already tired, but now I was absolutely exhausted for days. I could barely move. I'd get up from a full night's sleep. I'd shower, make breakfast, have coffee, and need a nap. I'd wake up from my nap, make lunch, maybe do a load of laundry, and then need another nap. I felt like a pile of poop. My mood was also very low, and I couldn't seem to shift my perspective. All the positive work and transformation that I'd seen the 3 weeks prior seemed lost in the wind. And then my period would finish, my energy would come back, and I'd go about building again. Then we had December. My period hit again, and this time I was so low that I was actually questioning my existence on the planet. I wasn't suicidal. There was no thoughts of taking my life, but from a place of complete neutrality and really just sheer exhaustion. My thoughts were something like, why exactly am I existing on this planet? What am I actually here for? Again, I was so unbelievably tired. My period was crazy heavy. I'm talking soaking through super tampons in an hour, and I could barely function. And on top of all of that, I felt guilty because Dave, of course, was going off to work every day, and here I was, a barely functional, unemployed, not yet building her business lump of skin. It had been a long, long time since I found myself in such a dark place. And like it did the last time, it was a siren call to me that something needed to change. Something was not working, and it was time to figure it out. So I made an appointment with my gynecologist. I spoke with her and explained what I was experiencing, and she sent me for a pelvic ultrasound. No surprise to me, it came back clear. There's nothing physically wrong with me. I had asked her about taking B12 vitamins, something that my husband has been taking for a couple of years, and she said all my B vitamins, they were completely fine when we did my blood test 6 months earlier. So technically, I was fully healthy, totally fine. Except I wasn't. And I was no longer fine just dragging my way through, and I was seriously beginning to get concerned about my mental health and well-being. So I did a little bit of research on B12. I wanted to know if, like vitamin C, would it just flush out of my system if my body didn't need it? So it turns out that B12, like vitamin C, is in fact water soluble, meaning that yes, if your body doesn't need it, you'll just pee it out. Now, it can make your pee more expensive, but it means you won't damage your body in any way. So having nothing to lose and everything to gain, I decided to give it a try. And Dave had a few different B12 vitamins kicking around. On the first day, though, he only had the 5,000 microgram ones. And babe, oh my God, it was like taking a shot of cocaine straight in the arm. I mean, I've never actually done cocaine, so I can only imagine that's what it was. But like, OMG, I had so much fucking energy. I was on the first day of my period, where usually I was basically a lump of skin just holding the couch in place. And instead, I had energy. I could do stuff. I felt like a real fucking human. It was wild. Now, about the same time, a book that I'd had on reserve for a few months finally came available in my library app. A book called In The Flo. It was a book that was recommended by someone I follow on Instagram, and I was super curious to get into it. And OMG, this book has changed my life. I began to learn about the 28-day cycle of menstruating women. Now, if you're rolling your eyes right now or giving me the, duh, Amy, we've all heard about the 28-day cycle. All I can say is we have never, ever heard about it like this. It was so clearly laid out, all the hormone changes that happen from one phase to another. Did you know there are 4 phases? I mean, for reals. The author shared how these hormone changes might show up in our day-to-day reality. So for example, like some weeks you're an absolute machine. You can get so much fucking stuff done. But others, you struggle to pay attention or do anything with focus at all. She also talked in detail about periods, giving clear information on the different colors of blood and what they could mean, sharing in depth about the length and overall flow of a period. By the way, did you know that it is not normal to soak through a super tampon in an hour? I didn't, because we're not taught to talk about it. In fact, during all of this, in late December, after the most horrendous period was over, I was at a Christmas gathering with some friends. Now, most of our friends are older than me by like 10 or 20 years because Dave is 13 years older than me. And it's fun being the young one most of the time. I sat down with one of our friends and she asked me about life and stuff, as you do when you're getting together with friends. And I mentioned how I'd been really struggling with my periods and how the last one was so atrocious, how I was starting to look into what was going on. She laughed and told me she'd been having terrible periods her whole life and gave me the whole, yeah, you're the one who's going to be the one who doesn't have to suffer. Like a, millennials, eye roll. Now, a few minutes later, when another woman joined our conversation, the first friend I was talking to said, Amy here is talking about how her periods are hard. I'm telling her to get used to it. Isn't it cute that she thinks it can get better? And here we are dealing with menopause. Oh, Amy, you just wait. It is no wonder that we don't talk about it with each other when these are the kinds of responses that we get. So, back to the book. Besides all of the incredible information that the book shared, and the fact that the author finally talked about our cycles as powerful, I mean, she straight up called out how differently we are taught about testosterone and the role of sperm in reproduction versus women's cycles, the monthly hormonal changes, or how fucking amazing a woman's body is to grow a living being. She also shared how we could support and nurture our bodies throughout our cycle, and I was all ears. She gave clear and science-backed nutrition information, talked about how we can maximize the different phases of our cycle for things like work, exercise, relationships, sexy time, and more. I have never, ever been about fad diets or doing anything that's unsustainable. It's why I have literally never tried a diet before in my life because, let's be real here, it is categorically unrealistic to assume that I will never again have a carb, that I'll only eat meat, that I will always eat only organic homegrown food, that I'll stop eating cake and cookies from now until eternity. It's not fucking gonna happen. So when I discovered Noom and its approach to weight release, I wanted to try it out because it was all about the psychology and learning about food. So any books or podcasts or resources of any kind that are all the, you must do this and you must stop doing this and you have to do this until the end of time. Yeah, there are no fly zone in my life. I'm all, keep your zero-sum game to yourself. Thank you very much. But in the Flo book, I was learning about simple changes that I could try right away that would have tangible results in short order so I could know if they were working or not. So the first thing I tried is something that the author calls seed support, which is to say, in the first 3 phases of the cycle, so basically when you are not menstruating, the book recommended having 1 tablespoon a day each of pumpkin seeds and flax seeds. And then during the menstruation phase, switching from those to 1 tablespoon a day each of sunflower seeds and sesame seeds. Now, each of these seeds support different hormonal processes in your body. So I went out right away. I bought sunflower and sesame seeds. I'd already been eating pumpkin seeds and flax for some time, so I had those in the house. Now, as I was reading, my next period started, and I read about a few different symptoms that women have been told are just normal. I wish you could see my air quotes right now. For basically forever. Things like cramps. I'd heard before to not have salty foods during your period because that causes you to hold on to water and thus swell and therefore feel bloated and crampy. But like, for reals, my body is craving chips. And since everything else already feels like fucking garbage, like hell was I not going to indulge in one of the few things that I enjoyed during Hell Week. Now that said, this time I read that if we experience cramping during our period, we could take some vitamin E and magnesium. I literally walked straight back out the door, right back to the health food store, bought both, started taking them right away. And holy friggin' cow. Until that time, I had been taking Tylenol every day and every night in order to manage the pain of my period. Now, my doctor assured me that this was fine and I would not become addicted or lose potency of the pain relief by taking it for a week once a month, which was something that I was concerned about. But it felt like a Band-Aid solution. When I got back from the health food store with my newly purchased vitamin E and magnesium, I took some right away. The next day, I took them again, and already I noticed that on day 2 of my period, which was normally still very painful, I had some pain, but it was barely noticeable and totally manageable without Tylenol. By that evening, the pain was gone. So I continued the vitamin E and magnesium throughout the rest of that period, no longer needing Tylenol and actually feeling pretty good. I was also continuing to take B12, but only during my period. Now, instead of doing the 5,000 microgram cocaine hit, I was now taking 2 1,000 microgram capsules that Dave had brought home from his work. I only needed them the first 3 or 4 days of my period, and by day 5, I was feeling fine again. It was amazing to me how a few small changes had such a big fucking impact. But I'm a bit of a skeptic, so I wanted to see if this would repeat for my next period. So the next time round, I started vitamin E and magnesium a few days before my period was due to start, which was recommended in the book, but the last time I only read about it literally on day 1. So the very first night, I woke with a bit of cramping, not too bad, but enough to wake me. So I took a couple of Tylenol, went back to sleep. For the rest of the week, though, I felt normal, which is to say, I had reasonable energy, I could function in the world, I even went for a little walk, I had no further cramping. It was like I was living a brand new life. And more importantly, for me, in both cases, my period flow reduced dramatically. I went from soaking through super tampons on the hour to a much more regular and healthy flow of a tampon every few hours. On top of all of these amazing changes in my physical body, I also noticed that my sex drive had picked up and remained steady right up until my period started. I marveled at the changes in my body and my experience of my period and all the weeks in between. And I just thought, how is this depth of knowledge not taught to us as young girls? Like, it's friggin' wild. We need to be teaching this to our girls. As women, we have been well socialized to simply assume that periods are painful, miserable experiences that we just need to, quote, deal with. We are shunned and shamed for mentally struggling for weeks or days at a time when men just push through. Recently, I saw an Instagram video where some guy was saying, why are women never 100%? If it's not their period, it's cramps. If it's not cramps, it's a headache. Now, I wanted to punch the guy straight up. I was like, yeah, it might be you, dude. But the video continued on with another gentleman coming on to talk about the historical lack of representation of menstruating women in medical trials, which is something that the author of In The Flo talks about. How women are at greater risk of death from heart attack because their symptoms are dismissed or misdiagnosed. How many women suffer from PCOS or endometriosis and more terribly painful experiences that were just expected to, quote, push through. And sadly, we have so deeply embedded this socialized torture into our own lives that even when someone tries to say, hey, this doesn't seem right, we respond with, what, you think you're the one who gets away without suffering? Yeah, right. So I've decided that I am actively having more open and direct conversations about women's health and what I'm learning and experiencing, not just with women, but with men as well. Like most things in life that are hard or deemed socially unacceptable, if we don't talk about it, we don't learn. How can we expect the men in our lives, in our societies, to advocate for us, to understand us, to stand with us if we never, ever talk about things? So, I'm wrapping up today's episode with a few simple encouragements. Number one, if you are a menstruating woman or you have daughters who are, I highly recommend reading In The Flo by Alisa Vitti. I will absolutely be making those notes in the show notes as well. Number two, if you are a man in a heterosexual relationship, first of all, I am so damn proud of you for listening through the whole episode. And secondly, read the book as well. You will be amazed to learn about how a woman's body changes throughout her cycle. And just think how much your partner will love you for educating yourself and supporting her more intentionally. Number three, talk. Talk with each other, talk with friends, open up about what you're experiencing, put judgment out the door, leave shame in the parking lot, and share openly. And number four, support one another. If another woman comes to you, tries to talk about what she's experiencing, don't give her the, oh, you think you're the one who gets to get away from this pain response. Listen to her. Share your own experience. Witness what she's telling you. Think about what options may be available for you both. There is something really powerful when we bring more than one mind together. 2 or more minds are fucking amazing. Now, I want to close out this episode to say if you've gained any value from this episode, please share it with someone else. Please send this to a woman in your life who you're just like, OMG, let's have a real talk about this. If you're learning anything cool about this, share this on Instagram and tag me in the post. I want to know what really stood out for you. And if you can, leave me a review. I would so deeply appreciate it. And I am truly thankful for your support of this podcast and my intent to raise all women everywhere. Together, I absolutely know and I am utterly convinced we can change the world. All right, my beautiful, lovely babes, I will see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform and help me reach more like-minded people who are ready to expand their life. If you haven't yet followed me on social media, find me on Instagram for extra love and inspiration by following at Amy Van Meel or visit my website at amyvanmeel.com. I love you so much, babe, and I am damn proud of you. I am already excited to connect in the next episode. And in the meantime, believe in yourself with the confidence of a 5-year-old.